All right, he's standing by on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Let's bring him in. It was a closed practice today for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And because of all the short weeks, we haven't had closed practices where basically the press just lurks and waits outside until things are done and the mystery is unveiled before they can go in and chat. Dave, what did you find out today after the doors were opened from the private session of Saskatchewan Roughrider football?
Okay, just a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to make a lot of friends or a lot of enemies in the next 20 minutes because we're not discussing the score in the Blue Jays game. You know how big of a fan I am, and it is on in the other room, and I'm not watching it until we are done. Number one.
Are you wearing a Blue Jays jersey?
Yes, Blue Jays jersey. Absolutely. Blue Jays jersey, okay, Blue Jays update today.
Okay. What's the number, and do you have a name bar on the back of that jersey?
Yes, I do, and I'm not going to tell you.
Tell me it's a Dave Steeb. Tell me that this is so old school that it's a Dave Steeb jersey. Back from, that's a whole other generation of Blue Jays baseball.
It's a number 13 jersey. If you're smart enough to figure out which player it is, then good on you. So anyways, back to what we were talking about. Closed practice, as far as that goes for the Roughriders, even on short weeks, they'll hold closed practices. It's one of those sacred things. That's where they do the install. That's where they can go ahead and put in play XYZ. So closed practices, they are here to stay each and every week for the Roughriders. It just depends which day it will be when it comes to preparation on a 5-day prep week. For the Riders today, what we're trying to figure out and decipher is that this is an Obsidian game. So this gives media and fans that are at Mosaic Stadium a huge advantage because the Riders, if you're going to be playing this week, generally you're going to go ahead and you'll put on an Obsidian mask and helmet, right? So it's a dark black mask in front of your helmet as opposed to what is a traditional for the Riders, the white mask. So what did I learn from that? Well, not a heck of a lot. Devon Campbell, who has been ruled out, obviously was on the field, was doing something today, you'd have to think, because he was carrying a helmet around, but because it was one with a white bar on the front of it, we just don't know. The only kicker that is wearing the Obsidian helmet right now is Brett Lothar. Read into that as you will. That's all the information that I've got on that. The only punter that has got the Obsidian helmet right now was Jesse Mirko. So read into that as you will. As far as the defensive backs go, Nelson Lacombo, Jackson Ford did not have anything like that whatsoever. And we did see that with Sheldrick Redwine, who was wearing that. He, of course, was on the roster in Ottawa last week. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but that's kind of what you read and take away from camp. As far as the receivers go, I didn't see Dante Meyer's helmet. I just couldn't spot it. Of course, he's been battling with an ankle injury this week, so we're going to have to wait and see what he looks like when it comes walkthrough tomorrow or even game day. We did see Del Duncan Busby, though, taking his reps this week at his spot on the outside or the wide receiver spot for the Saskatchewan offense. So that's what I can tell you from what I'm trying to decipher and read between the lines in.
You mentioned Dante Myers and no helmet. And whenever you see him on the sideline or they interview him on TV, he's got great flow. Like dude's got some great hair. Like it pretended to be like he is. And it's funny. We discovered him in training camp last year, like Antoine Brooks Jr., just to see how far he's come and just how important he is to this Rider offense. Like that catch last week where he broke it for 82 yak yards or whatever, and just exploded down the field to be like, those are the kinds of plays the championship football teams have when you need them the most. And he seems to be that guy. Would you say he's a spark guy that when he does something, it's one of those, then everything else seems to get going as well?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a tone setter, I would say. Him and Keyshawn Johnson. I guess that's why they're both over 1,000 yards this year. But that play in Ottawa, like I thought it was going to be stopped right away. I thought he was going to be sandwiched between two defenders. But if you played Madden football on PlayStation back in the day, and it still could be the same today, that me not knowing this would explain why my kids beat me all the time. But if you hit the R2 button, that was your speed burst. And it looked like he just hit that R2 button just after he caught the ball in stride and boom, he was gone. He's that guy that can do that. And you're right. Spark is a great way to say that. And he really looked to have ignited something for the Roughriders when they desperately needed it, when they'd gone a little bit flat in that second half.
We won, and that's all that we should worry about, right? A win's a win's a win. They don't ask how, just how many, but we're Rider fans. Of course we ask how. And then we need to go 19 layers deep into that. At times, the offense did good things. It just didn't seem consistent over the 4 quarters. At times, the defense did good things. It just didn't seem to be. And then there was the kicking situation. Hey, happy 11-4. We got a touchdown, right? First drive. Was that a stat? I think I saw your stat. Is that the first touchdown in 5 games in the first play? What was that craziness? Because slow starts have been our thing.
Yeah, the only team that has scored fewer first quarter points this season than the Saskatchewan Roughriders are the Ottawa Redblacks. And if you go back over the past 5 games, the Riders had only scored a total of 5 points in first quarters in those 5 games. So that's the number, that's the stat. But I think what you have to look now is that, hey, they're finding ways to do it. And I had a great conversation with Thomas Bertrand-Houdon today. And he said, you know what, we face adversity in every single game that we win. We're not running away from anyone. So we're learning each and every game. And obviously that's one way to look at it. Cardiologists in the province may look at it a different way. But again, this team has shown that they can face adversity and they can overcome it, whether it's self-inflicted or opponent-inflicted. And I think that's the way that they move on. So park that one. They've got 11 wins. There are 8 other teams in the Canadian Football League that would love to say that there are 11 wins right now. They can't. And the Riders can go ahead and put a bow on it, if you will, with a 12th victory this weekend against Toronto, which would be substantial, I think, for a team that is banged up right now heading down the stretch. Then they can make appropriate rest versus the rust decision and debate that you've got to go ahead and factor in down the stretch.
I'd love to get your thoughts. I thought the Rider patchwork secondary that was put together with new faces in new places did okay. I mean, Ottawa's not the most explosive offense, but you still got, Hardy out there. You still got Gino Lewis out there making plays. I thought they played pretty well for not playing a lot together as a group.
Well, and you know what? That's a lot of credit to Coach Josh Bell. The Antoine Brooks Jr. touchdown, pick 6. Again, just showed it right before he made that play. And it's hard to detect on video no matter which angle you look at it. He had a conversation with DeMarcus Fields as they recognized the formation and understood the concept that was coming their way before the ball and the play was even thrown. And the two of them talked about it, and Antoine Brooks decided that, hey, I'm going to jump this thing, and he made a great decision. So Josh Bell has got the secondary communicating, learning, and growing together. And I think he deserves a lot of credit that maybe he doesn't get when you look at the number of passing yards the Riders give up. But you look at the banged up secondary that he's been working with, he's got to get player after player after player prepared to go in on that secondary. And again, with Roland Milligan Jr. going to be out this week for sure, Marcus Sales being a question mark, and I don't know how he's doing it playing on the leg that he is. So it'll be interesting because you got to know another roster shuffle is coming. But what about the game of CJ Rivas? Like, he was put in at the safety spot and he came to play. Right. And I've said before that he's kind of the unsung hero of the defense. Now he's kind of showing his value and his worth, because he talked to me before the game and he said, you know what, I can play both sides of the ball. I'm not limited to half the field. I can go ahead and understand and see what I read and then react to what I read. And I thought that was terrific.
You mentioned Roland Milligan Jr. and you mentioned before that cardiologist in Saskatchewan. Well, besides everybody's heart skipping a beat, and I think there was probably some foul language too, when he went down, we've all seen the replay a bunch of times. When you saw it live and then you saw the reaction, I was like, oh no. Because look what happened a couple years ago when he was not in the lineup for the Riders. Things were not good.
Well, and I'll be completely honest. This is the first time watching the stream right now as I am. It's the first time that I've actually been able to see the play. They didn't show the replay in stadium. Luke had a bird's eye view of it, and he talked about exactly what he saw with the foot plant and then the rollover on top of that. So, yeah, it didn't look good. It was discouraging. The one thing that Luke was pointing out to me was that, hey, look, he is kind of bouncing on the sideline. He's kind of trying to walk it off. I don't know what that means, especially when the adrenaline comes down for an athlete, but we'll have to wait and see. But again, he's been ruled out for now, and that's a huge blow, right? Of course, he was the most outstanding defensive player in this league last year.
You had a chance to talk to Michael Hughes, the newest Saskatchewan Roughrider, who's trying out as one of the kickers from Appalachian State. First of all, kudos and full marks. the way he said Regina, like it had rolled off the tongue a million times before. Dave, we've all heard this before. The guys come in here, they're getting interviewed or whatever, and then they throw out the Regina. And you're like, okay, all right, whatever. Seemed like a very well-composed young man, very intelligent, obviously did his homework, but he's in a brand new surrounding. And one of the questions I asked Colson, if he does play this week, is he kicking off the turf or off a tee? He's never kicked off a tee before. He's only kicked off turf.
Yeah, so what I learned today about Mr. Hughes was, number one, as I have always called it, is Appalachian State. It's Appalachian State. I did not know that. So I now know that. And I do now know, thanks to Coach Mace, that he actually performed and played in that Apps State University, as you want to call it. He likes calling it, is actually, it got the highest elevation of any university or college in American college football. So they play at the highest elevation, and I would have thought that it was in Denver or Colorado. The second, by the way, Wyoming. So there you go, fun fact. But what also I learned about him is that he looks like he is very, very motivated to get this shot, because that's what it is, right? It's a shot. Apparently the kickers today, it was a closed practice. We didn't get an opportunity to see it. Apparently they had kind of a kickoff at one point. So again, they had an opportunity to show what they can do. Now, he had been this week, or I guess yesterday, he had been kicking off the tee or preparing his approach towards the tee. And Jesse Mirko, of course, would be holding on a tee as well for him. So that's what I would suspect that it is going to look like if he gets an opportunity. The question is if he will. If you want to go back to the whole, is he wearing an obsidian helmet? No, he wasn't. So again, it's going to be wait and see time for him, because of course, bringing an American kicker on means that you've got to make another move with finding a Canadian to start. Now, again, the Riders have got some options, especially if Dante Myers can't go, right? Then you go ahead and you have a starter in Del Duncan Busby. You bring Mitch Picton back onto the lineup, perhaps, again, just speculating, and then you can go ahead and dress the American kicker should you choose.
Yeah, and you know as well as anybody, a lot of these roster decisions also play in because special teams are such a big part of it, where like there's guys that got to play specials. And just because you're a Canadian receiver, if you don't play special teams, I don't know that week 18 is when you get thrown into playing special teams for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So there is a lot to go into that. Is there anybody that he reminds you of, or any kickers that we've seen in the past that you'd be like, oh, okay, he's kind of this guy, or he reminds me of that? Like, I think of, he seems like a bigger guy. Is he like a tall, lanky, like, is he a Sean Fleming-esque type? Is that who he would maybe remind you of?
Tall guy. He's just as tall as I am. So about 6'2", 6'3". He's, again, obviously he's athletic, which I am not. You can tell on the outside looking in. But yeah, he's a tall guy. He's a very confident man. And again, just the way that he carries himself, it exudes some confidence. So that would be probably the best way to describe him.
To play professional football, for some people, it's a straight line from college to the pros. But like he said in his interview, he's still kicking at a high school near his house, trying to stay in shape and do his thing. And you know that those are the loneliest types of situations because you're doing it by yourself, or you get your girlfriend or a buddy to come and shag the balls and bring them back and do that. You're doing it because you love the sport and you're just hoping and waiting for your chance. Did he say that he hangs a t-shirt off the goalpost or the crossbar or whatever for?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Like
incredible.
What else are you feeling after the close practice today when the Riders came out? You're feeling, like I said, we won. We're 11-4. Wrap up a home playoff day with a win. Things are good. These are problems we could have only dreamed about in the offseason, right? I mean, there's nothing, you know. Yes, it's not clicking as much or as easy as it did at the start of the year. But I also think, too, some of the teams, because there were so many new coaching staffs, they have gotten better. And there's a lot of film out on the Riders of what they do well, because what they do well is they're consistent at it. So, of course, you're good. And aren't you finding, Dave, if the Riders are the tops in the league, you're getting everybody's best effort?
Oh, I would suggest you do that anyways when you're playing the Saskatchewan Roughriders, right? You go into any stadium, even in Ottawa, and there was so much green and white in the stands. If that doesn't fuel your fire, I don't know what does, right? These guys are coming into our house, and this is so, yeah, you're right. I think that they do get everyone's best. And what fascinates me, and maybe that's the wrong term because it may seem a little dramatic and over the top, is that this team seems to approach every week the same. And I know, right? That's the stock answer. We're approaching it. We're going 1-0. But that truly is remarkable to me because if you were down at field level day one, day two, you wouldn't know whether the Riders had won the week before or if they had lost the week before. It was just refinement and focus that was on the field, right? Trying to make sure that you get that next play, that next opportunity to make the play, that you get it right. And Luke talked about it a little bit on the broadcast back on Friday in Ottawa and mentioned the fact that, you got to understand that, yeah, you're playing out the string, you're playing for jobs, la-di-da-di-da, but it's not just the athletes, it's the coaches too, right? And everyone knows what Trevor Harris is capable of, for example, right? And they're not going to just let him go ahead and sling those 7-yard passes all the time. They're going to do something to mix it up. That's what we saw in Edmonton with J.C. Sherritt, who probably did it best, right? Those 2 interceptions on the first possession that the Riders had at Commonwealth Stadium. The Elks mixed up their defensive look and went after that 7-yard pass that, again, had been there over and over and over again. And that's what we're starting to see teams tighten up and do, and trying to make Trevor uncomfortable as well as the entire offense and get out of what they do best. Now, the Riders have done a terrific job in making sure that they stick to the run game, which is really their bread and butter offensively. And as the run game goes, so will the pass game. But again, you have to give credit where credit is due. So getting back to your comment, yes, what I read this week is that the team is focused. They all know what's at stake. If you go ahead and you get this West Division wrapped up, you get that bye week in the first week of the playoffs, which is another week for this team to get healthy as they go down the straight. And of course, then they'll approach it as they do. But, it's a unique opportunity for Rider Nation to be in the building to see your team clinch first place, which does not happen very often. And at no point, by the way, if you go back to 1970, and thanks to Rob Vanstone for sharing this, you go back to 1970, never have the Saskatchewan Roughriders had 11 wins through 15 games of a Canadian Football League season.
Wow, that's crazy to think. A team that's been around well over 100 years that never, ever until this year. And with the Argonauts coming to town, and Farhan Lalji said in the first hour of the show that Wynton McManus has been shut down for the season. He's not playing. Nick Arbuckle's been shut down for the rest of the season, not playing. Now, what Toronto Argonaut team is going to show up? Because here with Toronto, Ryan Dinwiddie has somehow found a way through injuries and a host of new players and everything they've gone through although the record doesn't show it, to field a very, at times, competitive, sometimes dominant football club with bits and pieces. And at times, their defense has looked really good. And now you take Wynton McManus out, sure, but they've played a lot this year without him. So on Friday night, like you talked about, guys like Jason Shivers coming back, going to mix up that Trevor Harris thing and maybe throw some stuff out there. I'm thinking you're going to see a ton of that because they have nothing to play for. They have nothing to lose. There's no concept that's probably off the table that they're not going to try and throw out on Friday night because there's no downside for them. There's no downside for the Argos.
When it comes to stats, right, you can bend them in your favor to make whatever kind of point that you want. The Toronto Argonauts are 5-11. We know that they're going to miss the playoffs. Of those 11 losses, 9 have come within the final 3 minutes of games. So the Argos have hung around, and have made it difficult. Jared Dagey is going to start on Friday night. We know that. The question that I wonder for the rest of the season is, will we see Chad Kelly this year play a game of football? Oof. Because, again, to be off for an entire year, but why wouldn't you? He's been off for an entire year, right? Like, do you want to go into next year and see what happens after a year off? Or, again, I have no idea. I'm speculating at the severity of the injury. And obviously, if it keeps getting pushed back, that timeline, at some point, you have to be very concerned. I'm really curious if there will ever be a play for him to maybe make an appearance, even if it's for a half, right? You're evaluating for the years to come. So maybe, I don't know.
Mentioning quarterbacks, Tommy Stevens is didn't practice. He's out. Now we know it's a knee. Is that something that happened in a game? Like, did we miss something somewhere, or is that just something that just happened? Like, or how serious is it? Like, what do we know about Tommy Stevenson, that knee injury?
Don't know the severity for sure. He has been walking around and you can see him at practice. He's not in pads. He's not in equipment. But the game, what was it, 2 games ago when the Riders, remember all of a sudden AJ Ouellette continued to run the short yardage, and that was in Edmonton, right? And so the reason we thought at the time was, okay, you're preserving clock by doing that. But obviously Tommy Stevens got nicked up at some point, and AJ Ouellette went ahead and was given the reins. Okay, but get under center and away you go. So it's curious. What I really can't wait to see and hope happens, and again, this is such a selfish hope that it will never happen, but Jake Maier, again, he comes in that short yardage package right now, and AJ Ouellette goes under center. Jake Maier will flare out to the left or right, and AJ Ouellette has thrown Canadian Football League passes. I'd love to see him just throw one to Jake, because Jake's an athlete, a competitor, and I'd love to see what he would do. So selfish.
Every time I see Jake Maier sneak out to the flank, 50% of him has to be going, okay, I'm glad it's not me under center when some linebacker comes diving headfirst across trying to crush me. I'll be out here in case the pass does come. AJ, you take this. I think Jake at times is a good decoy. Some of the other games this week, Calgary's at Hamilton. So in watching that BC Stampeder game last week, you're just watching Calgary and they just can't string anything together. And it was so easy for them early in the season. Now everything looks like a struggle, Dave. Everything. Just 2nd and 6 to get a first down, and they're getting 5 yards. Like, everything is a grind in Calgary.
I think we're learning now why it was so important to the Calgary Stampeders in the offseason to go and get Flo Aromalade. Of course, he's out for the year now, right, with that Achilles injury. But just the physicality, the presence that he brought along the defensive line, and the confidence that I think that he not only brought to the defense, but the offense as well, I think was on full display. And not having, and again, I don't know if it's a rah-rah thing or if it's more of a stabilizing, calming presence, but boy, did he mean a lot to that team. And right now, I think that the confidence of the Calgary Stampeders, I don't want to say it's shot entirely, but if something goes bad, you can see little recoil here and then away we go. But I'm not going to rule the Stampeders out. I know others have, but when you've got Dietrich Mills and the weather is getting colder, that's a pretty safe bet. And if he can continue to get solid offensive line play, now the play of the O-line has not deteriorated, but regressed a touch that is forcing Vernon Adams Jr. to make a lot more quick decisions. But even their decision last week to get Philpott involved, right? So Jalen Philpott running around from the backfield, so on and so forth. There's a lot of tools there, and I'm not going to write them off, but they do want to right the ship very quickly.
Matthew Betts seems unstoppable for the BC Lion defense. And early in the season, the BC Lion defense, everybody was laughing about how bad they were and everything. And Betts, as he washed up, they paid him too much money. It's an NFL hangover. No, he's a man on a mission, and you can't stop him.
You made the point just moments ago when you said that there's so many teams that have new coaches. Mike Benavides goes into BC. And again, in what was a curious move in leaving the previous defensive coordinator on staff, I thought that was a tough one, and I wonder what was going on, what the inner workings were behind the BC Lions. But again, Mike Benavides, I said it before, I'll say it again, he is not a dummy. He knows what he is doing, and once the defense not only understood his concept, but then started to believe that the concept would work, that's where the team turned the corner. And yeah, Nathan Rourke throwing for 1,000 yards a game or whatever it is, that doesn't help, doesn't hurt you at all.
Yeah.
The only downside is that the BC Lions offense scores so quickly that the defense is going to go right back out there. But like I say, the defense is much improved, and perhaps one of the most improved defenses of the entire league, I would submit.
Yeah, you can remember in 2023 when the Alouettes started to take off and win, and they started trending, and they just kept going up and up. Well, this year you have them doing that, but you also have the Lions doing that as well. They seem to be hitting on all cylinders at the right time. Yeah, Calgary is in Hamilton. Calgary needs to win in Hamilton, or it's only going to get tougher. They may end up being the crossover. Winnipeg at Edmonton, and if it's the very stubborn hang around Elks, that could be one thing. If it is the precision Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Zach Collaros under center, this to me, I think, is my most intriguing game of the week because, Winnipeg takes that next step or Edmonton comes that much closer to the pack.
Yeah, and with Edmonton, right? So obviously their backs have been up against the wall since Labor Day, so this is not anything new for them. But boy, there still are so many questions, and we heard the whispers when we were in Commonwealth Stadium a couple of weeks ago. What would have happened had there been an open competition at training camp for QB1? Oof. Where would this team be if Cody Fajardo was there? We'll never know that answer, but again, it's going to be interesting how that plays out. And for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, again, you're not the best until you beat the best, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have been the best in the West for an awful long time. And just when you're ready to count them out or rule them way back in the pack, all of a sudden they find a way to put it together. And I think if there's one thing that, we talk a lot about Zach Collaros, whether it's positive or negative, but the one thing you can't deny is the leadership that he brings to that team because, okay, hand it to Brady Oliveira, you're going to be fine. Well, yeah, that's great. And Winnipeg was able to get a win with less than 10 passing attempts. That's great. But when Zach Collaros comes back, there's a new level of confidence and swagger that the Blue Bombers have, which is earned by them. Tell. And that to me is what's going to set them apart. And I think that if I was Winnipeg, I would want to avoid going east at all costs and try to get that West semifinal at home. And I think that that's the goal right now. I'm not saying that they wouldn't have wanted to finish first, which is obviously academic, but it can't happen now. And I think that that's the path that they want to take as they feel that'll be the most of least resistance. And we'll see if they can get it against Edmonton, like I say, who are still battling the what if we had mode.
Yeah, Ed Hervey hasn't come out and apologized for that yet. I don't think Ed ever will.
No, it wasn't. It was not Ed Hervey's doing.
According to Ed.
No, according to many that I've heard.
Oh. Well.
Trey Ford signed a deal to be the number one quarterback in Edmonton going into the season. And it was, hey, you know what? You don't have to compete. You are our number one guy in week number one. You will be under center. That was what was told to him, whether it was verbally, whether it was just in the contract dollars that he was after, or maybe it was a little bit of combination A and B. And that was predetermined. And that was the route that the Elks went to go. They found out now what they've got in Trey Ford, and now they needed to make a decision on how they're going to move forward.
Probably won't go down that road again and offer anybody else one of those colors. Then there's the always special Thanksgiving Day game where the Ottawa Red Blacks will go to Montreal, where if things go to plan, it's probably going to be Montreal putting on a clinic against a Red Blacks team that is really now just playing out the string. A Thanksgiving Day question, Dave. If there's turkey, and there probably is, I'm not asking if your wife cooks it or your mom or your mother-in-law or who's a better cook. Are you a gravy guy? Are you a cranberry sauce guy? Or are you a gravy and cranberry sauce guy? Because all depends on who makes the bird. How much moisture you got to add to it.
You know what? I'm surprised that you didn't think that I would make a turkey, but leaving that where it is, I don't believe that cranberries have any place near a turkey. Now, I know I'm in the minority even in my own household on that. But to me, you just go ahead and you do the calorie-free, as I use air quotes, calorie-free gravy and as much stuffing as you can tolerate.
It was funny growing up as a kid. So in our house, I'll eat the cranberry sauce, and one of the kids, well, the other three that won't touch it, they think it's like you. Oh, I'm like, no, you didn't grow up eating some of the dry turkey Saskatchewan style back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, like I said, you needed as much moisture as possible, cranberry sauce, gravy, like you name it. Stuffing was good, and I would trust my mom's cooking, her stuffing, and my Aunt Kathy. But I had some aunts in the family that weren't good cooks, and for whatever reason, if we ended up at their house, it was like, Sometimes buns and butter was the only thing on the menu that was safe to eat because they were just not great at cooking the big meal. And little did I know that, okay, so one of the funniest episodes of The Office is when they have the dinner party at Michael and Jan's house, right? When they're over there, like snip, snap, snip, snap, and they're showing up. And she says, while everybody's there, okay, now I'm going to start dinner. Little did I know, 30 years earlier at my aunt's house, the same thing. It was about 5 o'clock, and she had declared to everybody that she was going to put the turkey in the oven to start cooking.
Wow.
Dave, but that's back when you were kids and you had to be obedient and you didn't speak up and you didn't say anything. You had to let mom and dad kind of handle that, but you're looking around like. So are you, pardon my apologies, when it comes to turkey at your house, are you the guy that cooks it, or is that somebody's responsibility? You just do it on Thanksgiving, or is that an all the time Dave Thomas cooks the turkey for every family function?
No. My mom makes a great bird, and so does my wife. But, there have been times that I've made it too. Sometimes it's a team effort. It all depends on the year.
All right. Are there plans for this Monday? Are you having a big family get-together? What's happening? What's going on?
Riders are going to be practicing on Monday, so I'm guessing. So that's where I'm going to be for sure. But of course, there's going to be a football game to consume, and I'm sure there will be a lot of turkey. And I have no idea what the plan is. I'm just I'm on a need-to-know basis, and I don't need to know. I just know that it's coming.
Need-to-know basis, like that. Dave Thomas, voice of the Riders, and don't offer him cranberry sauce if you see him at Mosaic Stadium this week, as he's making his way to the broadcast booth, because he'll just keep on running. Dave, you're going to see the Jays are up 1-0. We're going into the second or the third inning.
I'm leaving now. Thanks a lot.